Yay, okay. Now let me share my screen. All right. Okay. Just want to make sure my screen's being shared and we will get into presentation mode. Okay. So this is our little team here, and we really love to tap into our creativity and find ways to connect with the community. So in this picture, you see Selena and Tara, myself, and Kara. And this was an event that we were at. It's called a Seed Swap. And, oh, I'm sorry, this was actually EcoFest. So we love these kind of out of the box places to share our message with folks. In this particular one, we were sharing about green burial and organic reduction and water cremation. So we love to get out and be creative and really work with the community to educate them. What we have found is in our experience here in the US, folks don't really like to talk about death, don't really like to think about it. And so we have found that our work as a doula really needed to be dialed back so that we could connect with the community and bring this educational component because we found that people just didn't know that they had options outside of what was currently being offered. Death care in the US is very much a professional industry. It's a $20 billion industry, and it has become very corporate. There's not a lot of family-owned funeral homes anymore. And so we find that people are, as I said, turning their folks over to the professionals and really not being able to step into that experience and embrace some of those life lessons that we can come from stepping into caring for somebody who is dead. So we do a lot of doula work, but we do a ton of death education. So that is what we are going to step into today. So why do we do this work? As I mentioned, death, dying, and grief are kind of taboo topics here. And so we love to bring people together in a way that is safe and maybe a little bit with a little bit of levity and a little bit of transparency and authenticity so that we can just unlock some of those dialogues. What we have found is that most people that we have encountered really don't know that they have options outside of what's being offered at their local funeral home. When they step in to make arrangements, they're being offered the traditional kind of embalming with a casket and a burial or cremation. What's not being talked about is that there is natural organic reduction, which is becoming legal in California. I believe we're at 12 states now. California, it'll be legal here next 2027. And people are just really unaware that that's an option that's available to them. Green burial, which is one of our favorites, is really sad that it's not accessible. Here in the county that we live in, we have one green burial cemetery, one for over 1 million people. And so that just reflects that we have become so detached and unaware of what our bodies are designed to do at the end of life, which is to go back into the earth, to feed the earth. And we're not being given that information by our funeral professionals. Water cremation is another option that's out there. We have one water cremation facility here in San Diego, and it's been a hard road for them to kind of get going because people don't know. So we want people to understand that they have options outside of what may be served up to them when they step into the funeral home. And the way they can access those options is by becoming educated on what's out there and then advocating for themselves and asking for those options, which also requires a little bit of planning, right? Um, Kara and I have both worked in the funeral industry. We were arrangers, so we met with families who came in after somebody had passed. And in that moment, while we would love to educate people on all these additional options, what's happened is that's just not the time and the place, right? They're dealing with so much already. So that educational component, that visibility to these other options has to take place before somebody died. And so that's what fuels us to go out and connect with the community. My favorite thing to say is that 50% of our funeral directors in the United States will be retiring within 5 years. That is, to me, a little bit scary because that's a huge attrition rate. And while we do have folks in mortuary science school that will be filling those positions, they're not going to have that experience and that knowledge that some of these seasoned funeral directors have. That gets me excited because what that means is we have the ability to reshape how we are stepping into death care here in the US. We have the ability to reshape what's being offered to families. And we have the ability to reshape that it's okay to step in and have a home funeral, to have a doula accompany you on those through the transition and afterwards. Couple that attrition with our aging baby boomer population, which is to peak in 10 years, I think this can go one or two ways. It can either be devastating disaster for our funeral profession. According to ChatGPT, when I provide this information to ChatGPT, it tells me that costs will increase, options will become even more limited, and timelines for family will continue to be pushed out. And that's just not what should happen at the end of life. So we're kind of excited about this funeral director attrition, and we believe that doulas are going to be stepping in and filling that gap. We already see death doulas out there doing that work with hospice, right? We're filling the gap with hospice. We're bringing that spiritual, emotional, the ability to kind of organize and plan for this transition. That's what a doula brings in. And we also see that a doula will also help with helping the family or the person who is dying really choose a way to die and a disposition method that reflects who they are and how they lived. So that's really kind of the passion behind what we do. We're super excited for this changing landscape. And I think there's a testament to it, which you will see as we show you how we are engaging with the community and how they're reacting to us. So before I turn this over to Kara, who's going to go up next, just a couple of pictures here. We were invited to do a podcast with a local cemetery that has a podcast. And we love to say yes anytime somebody invites us to come and to share what it is that we do it. So there we are doing our podcast with the Journey Home radio show. And this is the picture from Seed Swap, which is really a unique event here in San Diego. It is for gardeners, not professional people, but people who are avid gardeners. They love to grow their own vegetables. They might have chickens in their backyard. Some people even have goats. We realize that that's our audience, right? These are the people we want to get in front of because they're going to be drawn towards natural organic reduction, green burial, water cremation, home funerals, working with the doula, all the things that we do. So we go out, we bring our massage table, we set up a little station as a home funeral, and we invite folks to hop on the table and get shrouded. And some people are like, oh, hell no, and they walk away. But most people are, tell me more. And we will have a bowl of organic reduced person. We call him Bob. We'll have a bowl there, and people will be sticking their hands in the bowl of human compost and really just embracing the message that we're sharing. So I am going to now turn it over to Kara who is going to be talking about how we do this.
Thank you, Penny. So before I jump into talking about the how, a little bit about me. I'm also a death doula for people and also for their pets. And in a past life, I was a high school English teacher. And so in true English teacher fashion, I do have some notes because when we talk about the how, we're going to be talking about all the different things that we've done, and I wanted to make sure that I did not miss anything. So you'll notice here that none of these photos look the same. And that's one of my favorite things about how we do this and what we do. There's such a vast amount of options for people, depending on interest, depending on level of comfortability. Uh, we have, like she said, we've been going to these seed swaps. We've been going to like the event like EcoFest, talking to people in person. But every single thing looks different, and that's because we meet the community where they are at. Um, it's tough when you're talking about this kind of stuff because people are already generally slightly uncomfortable. I know this crowd is different, but general the general population of people are not always keen on talking about this. And so we find that the more comfortable they are in the space that we're discussing, the more genuine and authentic the conversations can be. And people are able to open up a little bit more. So in the top left corner, you can see Death Cafe at a yoga studio. We are lucky to have a yoga studio that lets us utilize their space. And so we've done death cafes there. We've also done discussion groups there. Obviously, with a death cafe, no topics. We've done discussion groups with topics. We've also had these discussion groups and death cafes at spiritual centers. You can see that at the bottom left. That's Stelina's death cafe that she hosts at the spiritual center. Um, we all we do a discussion group at a Zen center. We've also had death cafes at the funeral home that Penny and I worked at. And it's just kind of wide ranging, the types of locations that we do these things at. People can come in with no previous knowledge, no information to begin with, and then leave um, with a little bit more than they showed up with, right? They just show up exactly how they are. You can walk into the yoga studio in your yoga pants and, have a conversation about death. One of my favorite things is at the top, Grief Garden Club. It is a peer support grief group that I host in the park once a month. And it's also a seed swap, succulent swap, plant swap, harvest swap. So gardeners can kind of have an outdoor outlet where they can also come and talk about their grief in a non-judgmental and honestly peaceful environment. I love being outside in the grass, in the sun, and people have said, the same thing. It's just nice to be outside. Uh, Therapy is awesome, but things like this are a neat kind of like add on in the grief space. In addition to that, in the bottom right, you can see this was a Valentine's Day event at the yoga studio. It was yoga for grief. And then at the end, there was a champagne toast and chocolates and snacks. So a little bit different than maybe you'd expect some grief events to be. But we find that people really enjoy the creative aspect of some of the things that we do. The less clinical it is, the better. Um, and people just really respond to kind of how approachable the events are, and transparent too. And part of that is us arriving transparent and remaining transparent and showing up authentically as ourselves, inviting others to authentically show up as themselves. Another thing that we've done is a workshop called Death Styles. Just like you have a lifestyle, everybody also as a death style. And so that is work on things like advanced directives, advanced care planning, thinking about, okay, if just like if you're going to have a wedding, right? There's lots of things to think about. What about thinking about your funeral? What would an ideal funeral be like for you? Again, for some people, this is very challenging, but we have found that kind of the way that we're able to pitch it, sometimes it can be fun. It can be fun talking about what music you want to have playing. Um, and it's just really special to be able to give people the opportunity to be open and kind of think in a way that isn't always socially acceptable. Our society, especially here, is quite death averse. And so um, it's very powerful, in my opinion. Penny mentioned the Seed Swap, the EcoFest. I love tabling events. I love talking to people. I love when people walk up to the table and ask us about the compost on the table, and we get to tell them that it once was a person, and yes, you too one day could be compost. Gardeners love that. And it's just really authentic, just as many questions as possible. Super fun. That first photo on that last slide, or the first photo with the man in the shroud, might be my favorite photo. He was thrilled to be. Thank you. This one, he's smiling in the shroud. Honestly, just having people walk up and ask, "What in the world are you doing?" Is very powerful. Um, and then let me see, what have I missed? Beyond that, we've done informational sessions on what does a doula do. We have a recurring Zoom every month right now for people who are kind of interested and want to learn a little bit more. We've done death meditations, we've done sound healings, there have been somatic workshops. And then something that I really like is we've hosted something called Queer Death Network, which is a discussion group for the LGBTQIA plus community to talk about things that impact, you know, uh, the queer space in general when it comes to death care, and how things might be a little bit different, and the legacy aspect, and how do you make sure that somebody respects your wishes after you've passed. Um, and yeah, I find that that is one of my favorite things that we've done. Um, I love data. And so I love the fact that on Meetup, which Meetup is our primary way that we uh, have found people organically. They just find our group on Meetup and then show up, which is awesome. We have 1,200 Meetup members and growing, and at this point we've had 99 events, which is a lot. And steadily growing. We've got lots of things coming up. We have things going on all the time. And it's just, we just try to make it fun and relatable and easy, and just lots of different ways that people can show up exactly as they are, in an authentic way. So it's authentic connection. Um, Now I'm going to pass it to Selena, who's going to talk a little bit about the impact that this has.
Thank you. My name is Selena. Just a little bit about myself before I start. I was a civil engineer for about 20 years, so much like Kara and Penny, came from a completely different industry. And I retired during COVID from my corporate job and just gave myself permission for a year to do nothing. And in the nothingness, I was I found death work. Having had so many people in my life die, the draw to death work got louder and louder. So just in the quiet space of not having someone telling me that I needed to get a job, I found that talking about death was, and being in the death space was where I wanted to be. And the moment I stepped into this work, it really, people just started coming up to me from left and right. And it was as if just me saying yes to death work gave people permission to want to talk about it and want to talk about their own process with death. And it was really refreshing and it was really affirming that I was in the right space. I met Penny during that time when I said yes, and I realized quickly that I couldn't do this alone. I needed community. And so when I found Penny and Kara and Tara, I quickly found out that we all also had a similar vision. And so I knew that all of us, we could all co-create something really special. So our ethos is community, and we're not meant to do any of this alone. I remember when my dad died right before COVID, I felt really alone in this space. And we want to foster a sense of community. We want to let people know when you're in this time of your life, you don't have to be alone. You don't have to feel like you are a burden to your family and friends. You have a community here. So with that, we impact other industries also as a community. So for example, we have vetted care partners such as estate planners, wellness workers like Reiki healers, sound healers. We work with acupuncturists, psychedelic medicine facilitators, body workers, music therapists, hospice organizations, palliative care, doctors, grief support. I mean, the list goes on, right? So we definitely impact other people in our community. So if you think about it, it's like we're in the death planning space, bringing together all the players, and the event is your death. Just like Kara said, we plan everything in our lives like birth and weddings and graduations. And so why wouldn't we treat death any differently? Informed choices. So we assist everything from pre-planning all the way through death and body disposition care. And then after grief support, we don't just end when somebody dies, we carry them on through the grief space and beyond. And then also with a lot of sparkles sprinkled in between in those stages. Because we're aligned and have personal relationships with local funeral homes and funeral directors, we can provide the continuum of care that is personalized and unique to each person. So we know and love everyone that we're recommending and everyone in our community. And our relationship with them and who we have in the network directly reflects what we would want for ourselves. We provide education, and I like to call this education death ed, so much like sex ed, but for death. And like Penny said, we don't know what we don't know. And people are amazed at the wealth of information that we give them. And so often when we do these death ed workshops, people's faces light up because it's like someone let them in on a secret that no one else knows about. They're given all this information and they didn't realize that any of this existed. So it gives people hope and it sheds light on something that they normally think is bland and stale and kind of boring and that they didn't want to talk about. And this gives them something to talk about. Autonomy. So we think outside the box. We are not cookie cutter. Each person's death should be celebrated and treated as uniquely as the way they lived. So since the Death Network is such a diverse group, we can all bring something different and creative and new to the table. And as this network continues to grow, new ideas will keep forming and taking shape. We want people to know they have choices and that they don't have to conform to societal norms. Things such as home funerals, it's the time-honored tradition that Penny was talking about, living funerals. People are calling us now wanting to do living funerals, which I think is great. Let's celebrate you before you die. Why should we wait until after you've died to have a celebration? Providing medical aid in dying education and support. So here in the US and in California, medical aid in dying is legal. And so we provide education and support for that. DIYing a funeral, doing it yourself. You don't have to spend a ton of money. And I remember someone just told me actually this week that their friend had to take out a loan to pay for their mother's funeral, which is absolutely ridiculous. And so we're here to make sure people know what their rights are, and that they don't need to be spending all this money during death, when death happens. I had a client actually over the summer who she maybe had a week to live, and she had brain cancer. She wanted to have a psilocybin journey. And because we had our network, I knew exactly who to call. And we had it all set up and ready to go. And at the last minute, we had to pivot. And she ended up having a sound healing instead. And that ended up being just as impactful for her in her final days than the psilocybin journey. And because we had all those people in place, we were able to bring them in really quickly. And she ended up dying a couple days later. And if we didn't have that set up, if we didn't have our community set up, she wouldn't have had her final wishes granted for her. And so that was really beautiful. And then I ended up going out of town, and we ended up calling another doula to come in and make sure that she was taken care of. So having that community connection was really important. More tools for processing grief. So death is not an emergency. This is a time to pause, to slow down, to reset, to rest, and to process, and to honor, and to be still. And this is a time for the big exhale, right? So we are big advocates of time and space. This is a time to really honor all of that. And lastly, death is the big equalizer. So the impact of this topic reaches across every human on the planet. So it doesn't matter what your race is, your religion, your age, your socioeconomic status. Just like the previous slide, it's such a diverse group. So when we all come together to talk about death, we're all the same. I'm going to turn it over to Tara to talk about the future. Thank you.
Hi guys, I'm going to introduce myself. I'm Tara. I'm a death doula here in San Diego. I did my training initially in 2020 at the end of February, so right before we had our shutdown here. And I didn't really get started in the space until, I want to say, maybe about 2 years ago when I met, and I was looking for community. And I didn't know where I was going and what I was going to do exactly, but I saw Penny's sign for her death cafe, and I knew that I was going to find somebody that would be like-minded, and I found this entire community, which has been really incredible. And I think none of us can do this on our own, and all of us working together has been a really, really special journey for each of us and for our clients, because they get a really special experience when they choose us as their doula, because they don't just get us, right? They get everybody in our collective here. We, like Selena was saying, we have so many different modalities and people in different professions that we can reach out to support our clients, because not each of us can't do it on our own. So we can't do everything, and we have somebody that can help each of our clients with what they need, which is really, really special and important. In the future, we're going to continue to add to the Death Network with different, like I said, different people in different modalities and different professional spaces. Our community outreach, our discussion groups, our workshops have been really, really impactful. They bring people together, and they, introduce people to stuff they didn't know existed, right? Penny was talking about water cremation and green burial, and a lot of people here in the United States don't know what that is. When we turn on media or a movie, we see traditional American burial, which means somebody going to a cemetery, usually embalmed, in a coffin, in a vault, or they see flame cremation. And so we just are going to continue to teach them that that's not the only option. They can have a death and disposition that looks like what they expect, or what they would like to have, right? What they couldn't expect, because you don't know what you don't know. Those workshops and community events are really, really, really important, like Seed Swap. And even we have events where you can make a candle to help support in your grief. So you get to walk away with a physical object that will remind you that you're part of this really special community. So that's really, really important. As we move forward, we will be expanding the Death Network here in San Diego, but we hope to expand the Death Network outside of San Diego. Our collective is so special, and we want to take this model across the country and across the world, right? You might be in Indianapolis and you need support there. Well, we have somebody that can help you. We have a Death Network in the Pacific Northwest. And if your friend in Seattle needs somebody, we have a trusted partner that we can introduce them to that we know will support them in the same way that we would, and we know that they will get great care. That's just so important to us. And the website, the Death Network website, has spaces for personal web pages, which, you know, you get on there and it's almost a directory, or it just can help you understand, you know, I align with the values of these people and they're here to support me where I'm at and in whatever need I have, right? So we are at our best at the Death Network when we're working in community and in that continuum of care, right? You have a client that reaches out and wants support from a doula, and we have a doula that we think would align with your values and you would really work well with. So we'll send out, it'll be one of us. If maybe somebody calls me and I feel like maybe Kara would be better to support them, I can send out Kara and say, or I'm not available or whatever it is, I can say, hey, this person needs a doula and I think you would be a great support. Or if somebody wants, let's say, a sound healing or music therapy, I'm not a musician, but I do know somebody that can come out and help you. And expanding in that way, adding more practitioners is just really, really the best way that we can serve our clients. So if we start with a doula, we send out those practitioners that can do sound healing or energy work. We know somebody that can help you arrange your disposition. We have funeral directors in our collective that we know and trust, and we know can help our clients in the way that our clients want, right? So our client wants a water cremation, we'll send them over to Savannah. If our client wants a green burial, we can send them over to another funeral home that we know will support them in their journey. In the future, we hope to create a funeral home of our own, a community-based death care funeral home. It'll start with the doulas. It'll have us there as funeral arrangers or different funeral arrangers. We'll have, if you look over here at the little breakdown of what the space will look like, we have community rooms, right? We have a space that people can come and just have coffee and maybe work on some whatever project they're working on, or just come to have a discussion. We have a formal space for gatherings that could be funerals, celebration of life. You can have a living funeral in our space if you don't have a large enough space where you're living. And we also do workshops. So that's a perfect space for us to do our workshops and have yoga events, sound healing, all the kind of modalities that we've been working with can work in that space, which is really, really, really special. There's nothing like that here in San Diego. There's nothing like that that we're aware of here in California at all. The funeral home industry is really traditional. It can be really daunting and just sort of overwhelming when you walk in and you are in need, or you have a family member who is has passed or is going to pass, and you just need to get that set up. It can be really scary and challenging. And if you don't have the information about what's there or what's available to you, you might just sort of be sold on something. Is kind of the model here in California and the United States. So that's not what we want to do. We want to have our clients lead the way, and we want to provide the information so that they can. We're there to create, you know, a framework. If they need our help, we have the information, we can give it to them. If they want us to do it for them, we absolutely can. But we can do it in a way that reflects their values, and it's really, really special. If you're coming in to set up your disposition or your funeral, we're going to have spaces that afterwards you can see one of those practitioners that are in those different modalities. We have therapy rooms or treatment rooms so that you can maybe go get a massage or energy work or grief acupuncture if that's what you need, which is really special. So this sort of community-based death care is really important to us, and we're doing it now. But a physical space to do that is what's in the future, right? We have so many people in our network that can come together to make this a reality. So we have the model, we're doing it now, and the physical space is next. It's really special to us. As Penny said earlier, 50% of funeral directors here in the United States are going to be retiring within the next 5 years. So the industry is ready for change. We have an aging population that lived their life differently than the previous one, right? The baby boomers, they grew up in the 60s and the 70s, and they have that sort of anti-establishment kind of thing built in. So this is the time for them to be changing the way they do death, right? Really important to us is that green aspect. I know Penny talked about it. We go out to those seed swaps. We talk about human composting, human organic reduction. We talk about green burial, even though it's not really super accessible here in California, or in California really, but especially here in San Diego. We only have a handful of green burial sites in California and only a couple that are within a reasonable distance of San Diego. And something that we're really looking forward to is starting a green cemetery, or preferably a conservation cemetery here in San Diego. We are partnering with different cemeteries and memorial parks in the hopes that we can plant those seeds with them so that they understand how much this is needed here in our county. We've looked for spaces. We're doing research. There's a lot of bureaucracy here in San Diego. We're a really big city, really big metropolitan area. So getting something like this started isn't easy, but we're definitely doing the work, and we're looking for more help, and we're looking to, again, it's easiest if we partner with an existing cemetery to get this going. So that's kind of where we're planting the seeds there, right? We're planting the seeds in the community and, across the country with different collectives and within the community here in San Diego to sort of get some spaces that are aligned with our values. So that's really special. Thank you. I'm going to pass it over to, I guess, maybe Jane?
To me.
Or Penny?
Thanks, Tara. Yeah.
To Penny.
Yeah, to me, yeah. We've got a lot of great questions coming in through the chat, which I'm going to address in a minute. And I'm going to share this testimonial slide really quick, and then we'll move over to questions.
I think that my perspective has changed a lot. Particularly, I feel less afraid, and I feel like it's helping me to honor my life with a lot less fear. It's really nice to have a space where you can talk about death, because I think when you come together, that lessens the fear for everyone, and to just create like a healthy environment where it's safe to talk about this, to talk about death and dying, has helped me like release a lot of fears about my own death and also the death of loved ones. Seems like I can better prepare for their death, or just welcome it in a way that honors them in their life. And so it makes me feel more at ease.
I think my biggest takeaway from the Death Network was it gave me permission to do deep conversations about things that really mattered, and this common denominator that we're all looking at. And it just opened up so much possibility with friends and especially family to have those hard conversations. And the intimacy that is formed through that, to me, I was blown away how that subject took us deeper into each other's fears and joys and what it was to be alive.
A funeral director, or a person who's been in the funeral industry for about a decade, I think that what the Death Network is doing is really important, because again, it is letting people know, the community and families know all their options. I think there's a disconnection where families just think it's burial or cremation. They don't know that you can do a home funeral, do a home vigil, you can do water cremation, you can do human composting. They don't know their options. And I think that's why it's really important to have the Death Network and funeral directors work together.
So what you saw there was two folks that we met through Death Cafe, Eve and Nick. And it's interesting because we've actually become friends with them too. So we see these relationships forming. Like Nick said, people are craving this authentic dialogue. And so it's super, super I find it fascinating to see these people coming together through these discussion groups and forming relationships on their own. So this conversation can unlock so many important things. This slide just kind of highlights a little bit of what we do. We talked about all of these things, I think. Yeah, so this is actually a screenshot of a postcard that we pass out everywhere we go. And it just lets people know that these are things that you may not find if you are going down the traditional funeral home route. And we can help you plan that authentic ending. All right. So before we hop into questions, we would love to connect with you. You can see all of our Instagrams and our email addresses are on the screen. There's a QR code that will take you to our website. And one last thing I'll share is that all of this growth and us coming together and these ideas has all really happened organically. None of us set out 2 years ago to say we want to open a funeral home of the future. That all came to us over the last couple of years. And I believe, especially with many of us coming from industries outside of death care, we are looking at this and going, what the hell is going on? This isn't right. Not for everybody, but people need to know what their options are. And so all of this is just this little magical ecosystem that we've created where these ideas continue to flourish and bloom, and the right people keep landing in our path. My background being in online marketing and website development, as I was building the website, the Death Network, I discovered that it could also be a resource for others out there doing the work who don't want to build their own website. It takes a lot of resources, it's a lot of money, blah, blah, blah. It's a lot of work. So if that's something that you're interested in establishing an online presence with a website that's already established, I encourage you to go to our website, check out Join the Collective, or send me an email. We really believe in the work that we're doing, and we want to partner with other collectives that can help, that subscribe to the same thing. So that's really what it is. It's we just want to continue to plant these seeds and watch them sprout. Okay, so I'm going to go into the chat and answer some questions. And if you guys want to raise your hand too, Jane, if you could keep an eye on the hand raisers, I'm going to be in the chat right now looking, and we'll start answering some of these questions. Linda asked, are you doing any work in the education space, such as colleges, universities, public school systems? The answer to that is yes. We just partnered with Southwestern College in San Diego and did a little bit of a presentation on home funerals and the work of a death doula and restoring some of our time-honored death care practices. So anytime we think somebody's interested in what we're doing, we immediately kind of latch on and say, hey, can we come and share our message? We just shared at a local cemetery. We're connected with the spiritual centers here in San Diego, and they love to have us come and talk about it too. So the answer to that is yes. Andrea, thank you for your comment about our approach, energy, and future vision. Thank you for affirming that. And Emma from Dying to Help says she loves collaboration, currently in the early stages of creating your own small death collective. Yeah, so that's exactly what the website, thedeathnetwork.com, is designed to do, is to bring these like-minded people together. Oh, Sofra. Yes, Endwell is the conference next week in Los Angeles. Oh, Kara already answered that. Thank you so much. Delapre, question, would you be building on a cemetery site? Yes, ideally we will partner with an existing cemetery to get that off the ground, because opening our own Green Burial or Conservation Cemetery with the city of San Diego is a lot of red tape. And so we are trying to work our way through that. We are exploring pretty much every option available in regards to opening up a green cemetery. Victoria asked, in the UK, there are green burial grounds like Eden Valley, where you don't have a grave marker, but you can have a tree. Yeah, so that's very similar to our green burial sites here in California. Some are a little looser with their green rules. They will allow a flat, kind of professionally made headstone. Some of the truer greener burial cemeteries will ask that you use like a natural stone or plant a tree or plant native flowers or plants near the graveside. So that's kind of the preferred method. Okay. Do we have any other questions? I don't know if I caught everybody in the chat, so if I didn't catch yours, please raise a hand.
I think you caught everyone in the chat, Penny.
Okay, great.
And then there were no hands up, so.
Okay, wonderful.
Sorry, I was just there was someone had and you didn't just answer this, did you? About the Sophia was asking about the conference, what the name of the conference was.
Yeah, we answered that one. It's End Well.
What did you? Sorry.
Yeah. No, fine. The End Well conference. It's next Thursday, and then the Grieftastic book fairs the following day.
Perfect.
And Erla just asked if there's a network like this in Canada. And I am aware of there's a lot of different collectives out there. And one of the things that we think that the Death Network can do is bring those collectives together. So while you may join a collective in Canada, the next step could be you bring your collective to the Death Network, and we create this global network accessibility to all the people who subscribe to the same things that we subscribe to. And it looks like Tanya just put in there CINDEA as a local resource in Canada. Delapre, you're absolutely correct. I mean, it's really mind-blowing to us that green burial is so inaccessible in where we are. When we think about death care, green burial is really what our bodies are designed to do for our bodies and for the earth, right? It benefits us and it benefits the earth. It's what our DNA knows what to do. We decompose and go back into the earth. And it was really about the time of the Civil War here in the US when embalming became on the scene. And then I like to say Abraham Lincoln, who was our president at the time, became the influencer for embalming because after he died, he went on a train tour across the US for 6 weeks, embalmed, and really kind of mainstreamed this type of death care into the US. And that was a really pivotal moment in our history because that was when we started turning the care over to the professionals, because obviously you need a professional embalmer to perform that work. And so that just became how we do death in the US. So a lot of our messaging and our work is really just reminding people that our bodies are designed to decompose and go back into the earth, and the earth is designed to receive our decomposing bodies. It's a very, very simple message. It's interesting to see how the lights turn on when we just say that simple fact. Our bodies are designed to return to the earth, and the earth is designed to receive our bodies. It kind of makes me sad that we have become so disconnected from what we are designed to do. And so it's definitely a growing trend. I believe the trend is expected to increase 40% over the next decade. And some of the pushback comes from the fact that at a traditional American cemetery, some of these efficiencies that we put in place, like dropping a vault into the ground for the casket to sit into, is really just there to maintain the flatness of the landscape and provide the groundskeeping crew an easier way to keep the lawn manicured. That, in my mind, just doesn't make any sense. We're preventing our bodies from decomposing with this vault and this casket because we want to keep the ground flat. Like, does that really make sense? So a lot of what we talk about is really just common sense and going back to what our bodies are designed to do. Unfortunately, we live in a very populated state with some really restrictive laws and regulations. And we think there's a little bit of a battle ahead of us in order to really mainstream green burial back into our practices. Any other questions? For Tara, Selena, Tara, do you have anything to pop in?
No.
I just wanted to say thank you, and I wanted everyone to know that to do death different, to think outside the box, and to do it your way.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I think that's our last slide. There we go.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Penny, Cara, Tara, and Selena, for sharing all of your knowledge and wisdom with us today. Anyone fancy getting shrouded and sticking their hands in Bob the Compost, let us know. I love the idea of meeting the community of where they're at. So things like yoga studios and grief garden clubs. And so really have a think about where in your community that might work. It's so much about options, education, autonomy, community, advocating. So please do connect with the team and continue to build out your networks as well. Thank you so much to everyone who's joined us today. I'm really grateful that you're all here. As you will know, Lifting the Lid is a volunteer event. Attendees can donate to the GoFundMe page. I'll pop it in the chat. You can also buy something from the store to support future festivals as well. We are looking forward to seeing you at other sessions over the rest of this weekend. What will happen now is going to prep for the next session. So we'll put slowly everyone into the waiting room. It's a bit of a laborious process, so apologies. You'll hear us chatting in the background. But then we'll let you all back in when we're ready to start again. But again, thank you for being here. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you all so much. And we look forward to connecting with you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much.
Do you want to stop sharing or record? Stop recording, then it'll stop sharing. Amazing, thank you. So the two people, I don't know if you want to take all the